Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dollars with Sense. I'm Ella Lange here with my co-host, Terrence Vanderwood.
Good morning.
We are your two financial gurus back this week for part 3 of our 3-part series on downsizing, which is a hot topic these days. Last week, we explained that George and Barbara Walker, our case study couple, were kind enough to let us share their downsizing experience with you, our listeners, to hear how they handled this important transition in their lives.
Since we accompanied the Walkers through it step by step, we thought it'd be best to present their experience to you split up in 3 separate scenarios. Part 1, or Scenario 1, was all about what to consider and how to prepare yourself before you sell your home. Last week, Part 2, was a more detail around the transition or move experience and the financial details around Walker's transaction. This week, Ella and I will take you through 3 different scenarios around what to do with the proceeds of your downsizing adventure. Again, we are presenting this process to you through the Walker's eyes. You may find that you can relate to them and perhaps take away some good tips for yourself along their journey.
So we'll be looking at 3 different scenarios. The first scenario is sadly the choice that usually comes first to mind, to put it in, for example, your money into a high interest savings account, or even worse, a guaranteed investment certificate. The second scenario is what it would look like if you use that money like you would a pension, a monthly amount that will be with you until your final day. And the third scenario, you receive a monthly amount and you greatly reduce your final estate taxes, your taxes today, and help 3 charities with a financial sustaining gift.
Either that or give it to the taxman. Your choice. Are you ready for the knowledge these 2 financial gurus are about to reveal? Grab a nice cup of Earl Grey and let's get comfortable on Dollars with Sense.
Welcome back to Dollars with Sense. My co-host Terrence Vanderwood and I are talking about downsizing part 3, $500,000. Now what? So we have to begin this exercise with a few assumptions that we are going to use the Walkers again for the details. The Walkers are real clients, by the way, but their names have been changed for the purposes of this recording.
So these are the assumptions. George is 73 and Barbara is 71. Together, they have a registered retirement income fund, or a RIF, of $145,000. George has $100,000 and Barbara has $45,000. They each collect Canada Pension Plan, or CPP, George at 100% and Barbara at 30%. And they both collect 100% each of Old Age Security, or OAS. George was an accountant for a medium-sized firm, and Barbara has been a self-employed painter for most of her professional life. Neither of them have a pension, and as you know from last week, they now have a non-registered account of $500,000, which is the proceeds of the sale of their home. Their combined income is $60,000 currently, and they split their income 50-50 for tax purposes. Their income and expenses are equal, and they are very happy with the lifestyle they lead. They are both healthy and are expected to live to 90 years old.
And as we said in the opening segment, we're going to paint 3 different scenarios that utilize that $550,000 in different ways. The first scenario, sadly, is the one that is chosen most of the time, an investment vehicle that provides 9% return over the next 3 years, just like that ad from the little blue suited dude in the bowler hat.
You mean the banking institution that starts with an R and ends in oil?
Yes, that's the one. It was one of their ad campaigns that ran a couple of years ago, offering a rate of return of 9%. Sounds fabulous. Who wouldn't want to invest their money there? Well, the fine print of that deal was that it was a combined total maximum of 9% over 3 years. That breaks it down to a maximum posted rate of 3% a year. Not bad, except further down into fine print, it reads that 3% is the maximum and that the expected returns were actually 1.3%. Boo! This particular product, as it's known in the industry, is called a Guaranteed Investment Certificate, a GIC.
A GIC has a specific time frame where the investment money cannot be withdrawn. So that means it's locked in. And the bank pays a guaranteed amount of interest to you. GICs are probably the most inefficient way to invest money. Why? Because as we all know, there is a rate of inflation that increases our cost of living. For the last 15 years, the average rate of inflation has been between 2 and 2.5%. I don't know if you're good at math or not, but if the cost of living is rising by 2.5% and the interest you are making is 1.37%, are you staying ahead of the game? Of course not. Every year you have your money invested into a GIC, you are losing a percentage point and decreasing what's known as your purchasing power.
Have a look at your screen, which shows the lost decades of GICs. If you're listening on the radio, just a picture of a beautiful graph with numbers is coming up on the screen that are in the $100,000 range. And then look at it after the show on our Dollars with Cents Facebook page. It's a comparison of a balanced Canadian mutual fund versus a GIC, and the difference not only in the amount of money that grows within the original deposit, but the difference in the amount of payout. This graph shows actual returns from 1994 to 2014, which includes, I might add, the tech bubble burst of 1999 and the global downturn of 2008. Even with all of that trouble in the financial world, the balanced mutual fund won hands down in both categories, the capital invested as well as the annual growth paid out.
So let's look through this example of this chart. So what is the guarantee of a GIC? The purple bars represent the investor's dividend fund principal value. Let's say 20 years ago you put $100,000 into this account. There was two people who did it. One did it into dividend fund, the investors group, and the other did it into a GIC with an interest rate of 2%. So if you look at the purple graph that's going up, 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 and then it goes down and goes up and goes down and then it goes up again, then it goes really down. And the really down part is 2008, which was a real big panic for most people. But as you can see, even at 2008, if you go right back to the very beginning in 1994, you still have protected your capital, even though you've lost so much. And then it continues on and grows forward. So at the end of the day, after 20 years, you've deposited $100,000, investors' dividend fund, you are now left with approximately $113,000, 20 years later. With the GIC, the principal value, so after the rate of inflation, and both are considered with rate of inflation, the GIC principal values is worth almost $50,000. So you've cut your capital in half. Not only that, you'll see very small at the really bottom of the graph here, you'll see a green and light blue bars. Those represent how much money gets paid out on an annual basis when you invest the $100,000 and then not reinvest the money, but actually take it as a payment, take it as cash, as an income. So in the investors group, over the 20 years, if you look down below in the green bullet says, at the end of 20 years, you will have received $96,000 in payouts over the 20 years. And then the GIC income payout is $66,000 over the past 20 years. So as you can see in both cases, both how much you can receive as an income from your $100,000 and for what it's going to be worth in 20 years, it is far better to put your money into investors' dividend fund in this instance, though most balanced Canadian funds are equivalent to what the investors group dividend fund is. Of course, ours is a little bit more special because we actually have a really, really great yield. So what is the guarantee of a GIC? In my opinion, the guarantee is that the bank will keep your money with them at a really low rate so that they can lend it out at a much higher rate.
Those sneaky devils. There is definitely an emotional and psychological aspect to investing. It's not an easy decision. That's why it's so vital to your financial health to have a great financial planner. If you are in need of one, or perhaps a second opinion of your current plan, contact us and we can help you find the appropriate fit for you. You're certainly able to reach us by phone at 778-879-0820 or by email at twofinancialgurus@gmail.com. It's the number 2financialgurus@gmail.com. Or comment on our Facebook page, Dollars with Sense. When we come back from the break, Terrence and I will get into the next two scenarios around what to do with that $500,000 proceed from the sale of your house. I'm Ella Lange, and you're listening to Dollars with Sense.
Thanks for coming back to Dollars with Sense for today's topic, downsizing. This is part 3 of a 3-part series on a very important topic that is top of mind for many of you in the Tri-Cities, the Lower Mainland for that matter. For the next few minutes, we will enlighten you on 2 different financial structures with our case study clients, Barbara and George Walker.
The first scenario is if George and Barbara decide they want to raise in their living wages and use the $500,000 to become part of their income. They want to run out of that money when Barbara passes away at age 90. As their financial gurus, we work with them to find the investments that offer a really great yield. In other words, the companies that within which they own the shares pay out an amount to their shareholders on a regular basis, which is called a dividend yield. This is important because the Walkers want to maximize the amount of monthly income they will receive.
So the assumptions are that the present value of the investment is $500,000. The future value of the investment will be $0 because they want to spend it all before they pass on. The number of years until Barbara passes on is 19, and they expect to receive monthly payments. They, of course, have taken our advice and will be receiving an annual investment rate of 5%, a moderate amount that is good for their sleep at night factor. Given these calculations, George and Barbara will receive $2,800 per month.
Wow, that's a huge raise for the Walkers. They will have an extra $2,800 to spend on wonderful trips, rounds of golf, or spoil their grandchildren. But will they? There's always another side of things to consider. The other certainty in life, which is taxes. Because they're only making $24,000 a year, their marginal tax rate is low at 18%, but their effective tax rate is much less, probably 0. With the additional income of $33,400 per year, their income will increase both the marginal and effective tax rate. This means that their gross tax bill goes up too. Assuming it's all interest income, it will increase by $6,000.
This means that of the $500,000 that they had invested and withdrawn from, every year $6,000 will go to the federal and provincial governments, who always do their utmost to spend it wisely. Mm-hmm. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Seriously, though, that is not a small amount. This amounts to $120,000 over the next 20 years. And which demographic are the Walkers part of? The baby boomers, of course, the generation with the highest in numbers of people on Earth to date. And a huge percentage of these baby boomers, George and Barbara included, will be giving an amount like this to the government every year. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for paying my fair share of taxes, but this is simply too much.
It certainly is. But we have the solution, which brings us back to the final scenario, which we will recommend. There are a few more moving parts to it, but in a nutshell, the Walkers would have their TFSA, tax-free savings account, use it to the maximum, which is $46,500 each. And they would be drawing more heavily from their RIF. They would be deferring 82% of taxes on their investments to their estate, and then we'll have a plan in place that all taxes owing will be a gift split between their 3 favorite charities, the Red Cross, the SPCA, and SHARE, here in Coquitlam. This will also free up their heirs to not have to worry about the tax bill and the inheritance that will be directed as chosen in their will.
We also added in for the Walkers, while they're alive, a budget for their desire to travel the world. They will spend $10,000 annually for the next 5 years on travel, as this was always a dream throughout their life, and now it's a reality. And then there is another reality. The Walkers, like many of their peers, don't feel right about spending so much money on things that are not necessary. It is very true that once you are at a place where you do not have to worry about money, your focus shifts to what is important for you. For those of you who are watching the screen, you can now see the difference this kind of planning does.
So as you'll see in the first scenario, which represents investments through a GIC, there's been a good 8 years of no growth. It just stays level. That's the non-registered investments in yellow. And it tapers off towards the 90s. Then you'll see in purple the registered investments also are quite short-lived. 7 years later, depleted, gone. And in blue is the lifestyle assets. That represents the value of George and Barbara's home. And there too, it stays pretty level. It decreases as years go on, and so does the net worth, which is in black. So basically, at the end of the day, they've had very tight cash flow throughout their retirement. I don't know, Terrence, what do you think?
Yes, definitely. What the GIC doesn't take into account is there is no additional monies for travels around the world that we had talked about. And then you'll notice that basically at the end of the day, they've got about 5% of their net 5% of their net worth, which is approximately $1 million. 5% of that is what's left of the $500,000 that they put in there. And then the only thing they have left, which is the other $950,000, is the value of their real estate, which is great, but that's locked up money. So they're in a dangerous position where if they have anything that goes wrong, like for instance, they have to go into long-term care, they have no real way of taking care of it.
Good point, Terrence. Excellent. Yeah, that's a very good point.
So looking at scenario 2, what we see is that their non-registered investments run out in about 16 years. Their registered investments, which includes their RIF, runs out the year before Barbara dies. And then, of course, their house remains at the same value as it did with scenario 1. So in this scenario, and this scenario is the drawing out of $2,800 per month over the next, until the money runs out, they essentially run out of money, which is what's expected. But again, there's nothing left behind except for to sell the house if anything goes awry. And then in scenario 3, which is the one that we're presenting as the best scenario, you'll see that the net worth, first off, is worth $1.2 million at the end of their lives. They do not run out of the $500,000 that they've put in, and they also don't run out of registered money because they've fed money into their TFSA, and they have had that for them available. Of course, their house remains at the same level as all 3 scenarios because nothing happens with that. The assumption is that it does grow over time, but just at the rate of inflation. So then you can see at the end of the day that the 1.2 is a way better off scenario. And this is what separates this financial plan from anyone else. That's what makes us great financial planners. By deferring 80% of your taxes to your estate, you will pay very little in taxes, and the bulk of those taxes are able to grow for the rest of your life. And then, the day when you join the great gig in the sky, a permanent life insurance policy can pay your taxes that your estate owes. Remember, the bulk of taxes are deferred, so they will have to be paid. And those will be paid to the Red Cross, the SPCA, and the Share Society through your permanent life insurance policy. This will equal to $80,000 based on the assumptions we mentioned earlier. That will go to the Red Cross, the SPCA, and the Share Society.
And there's one more bonus about this phenomenal plan. A permanent life insurance policy doesn't mean your money is locked up. As the cash surrender value grows, your availability to borrow against this policy and or withdraw some cash also grows. This is a great way to add an extra cushion in case of health problems, for example. So as you can see again by the chart, all this additional planning and strategizing about what to do with that $500,000 will build what the Walker's estate is to give $240,000 to charities, $1.2 million to their heirs, and the least amount to the taxman.
That is awesome. I really enjoy this part of financial planning. It's exhilarating to know that every client we help to set up their estate like this, we are changing a little part of the world, but in a very significant way. Contributing to the non-for-profits and the charities like that is our way of changing the world. Thanks to everyone here at CKPM-FM for broadcasting our show to the Tri-City areas, and thank you, our listeners. When we come back, we'll recap, tell you about the way we are going to make your downsizing journey as worry-free as possible. You're listening to Dollars with Sense. Welcome back once again to our final few minutes of Downsizing Part 3. You have $500,000. Now what? Here on Dollars with Sense. If you have any questions resulting from what Ella and I have presented to you today, or any other episode, feel free to reach out to us. You can do so by our Facebook page, Dollars with Sense. You can email us at 2financialgurus@gmail.com. That's the number 2, financialgurus@gmail.com. Or call us at 778-879-0820. So, to recap, we presented you with 3 different strategies of what you could do with the $500,000 after the sale of your home.
Yes, the first scenario we talked about, the scariness of the land of the GIC. If you like to lose 1% or 2% every year, this is the perfect place for you. The second scenario is what you'd like if you would draw out the $500,000 over the next 19 years. Doing this would give you a really great raise to your income, but also increase significantly the amount of dollars going to the taxman, who I think we can all agree get enough of our hard-earned money.
And the final way, which is the one your 2 financial gurus here recommend, is a thorough estate financial plan that includes creating a legacy to your favorite registered charity, maintaining the most of your inheritance for your heirs, enjoying an international trip every year for the next 5 years, and enjoying a worry-free retirement.
Well, that sounds like a no-brainer, I would say. Again, this is just 3 of many different possibilities. Your decision on what you want to do is unique to you. This is where you can tell if your current financial planner is a good fit for you or not. If he or she is, they will be able to put a plan in place that is tailored to your specific retirement needs and estate wishes. And if he or she does not feel right, then I would highly recommend a second opinion.
So today's action item is to find a downsizing dream team to take you through all the steps and guide you through all the processes of the entire journey from selling the house to finding your home. There is only one real way to find this dream team, and it's a really easy step. It won't require you to make 50 phone calls and meet the 15 people to decide on 5 of them as your core team. It won't require you to do endless hours of research and agonize over what would be the right choice. It may even help you make the tough decisions about what to keep and what to let go of.
The easy step is to email us to financialgurus@gmail.com, and we'll introduce you to our downsizing all-star experts. We have a seasoned real estate agent that can help you find that right home, a transition expert who can help you through the packing up and moving process. We have a great mortgage broker who will guide you through the finances and protect your new home from mortgage fraud. And we have a lawyer who will not only take care of conveyance matters, but will also be able to update your will to reflect your wishes in the next chapter of your life. And finally, you have us, your 2 financial gurus, to grow and protect your wealth.
Yes, everyone, I believe this is unique to the Tri-Cities areas. to have all these professionals working together to provide a service that delivers such value. So if you are in the place where you have made the decision to go through downsizing, send us an email or give us a call at 778-879-0820, and we would be happy to get you started on the next chapter of your life. Thanks to everyone for your time you spent with us today. Please take a moment to like us on our Facebook page or share this podcast with someone else who you know can benefit from this. Karma will love you for it.
Please join us next week. We'll be sharing some of the questions we've already received on our series. We will provide you with answers from our different professional all-stars from our Downsizing Dream Team. Once again, we'd like to thank George and Barbara Walker for allowing us to share their story with you. Again, that's send us your questions and comments at twofinancialgurus@gmail.com. That's us, your two financial gurus, Terrence and I, signing off until next week. Have a fabulous week, and may your cents and dollars be with you.